All right, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and I have a lot of great news to bring to y'all today. We have two separate videos basically in one. Y'all know how I do, man. So the first half of the video, we have to talk about how the Washington Commanders already feel like they have the steal of the 2025 NFL Draft. And I want to go ahead and preface this with the fact that this was put out back on August 11th. Before we got through the preseason or anything like that, that's when this came out. And then the preseason just kind of like enforced it. We're going to dive into who that draft pick is and why they feel that way about them. And then the second half of this video, we have to dive into how the Washington Commanders offense is evolving. I'm going to go dive into some stats as to how the Commanders offense was already one of the best in the NFL last year. But then we got to take a look at why this offense is potentially taking the next steps to be literally the #1 offense in the NFL this upcoming season. And it's not just from just additions only, it's also from the guys that were here last year improving in specific ways. We're going to dive into all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Appreciate y'all for supporting every video. Hey man, shouts out to my watch to the end game, man. Shouts out to all of y'all that watch to the end of the videos, man. Y'all are the realest ones doing it. Shouts out to all of y'all that leave likes and comments as well. And of course, I have y'all covered everything Commanders. I'm working on a Giants preview right now. Maybe I'll come out with that later on this evening. And of course, I will be live streaming this upcoming Giants game that is going down Sunday, September 7th at 1 p.m. I'm gonna start live streaming at 12 p.m. Make sure you pull up. I will be live streaming play-by-play analysis, all of that type of stuff throughout the entirety of the game. And of course, we'll stay maybe like an hour or two, maybe even longer than that. We'll see after the game, giving my thoughts on what happened, what I saw, and things like that. And so, in replying to what y'all say in the chat as well. But let's go ahead and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so again, the first half of this video, we're talking about how the Washington Commanders already feel like they have the steal of the 2025 NFL Draft. This all started when Robert Mays tweeted back again on August 11th. In case you missed it, on yesterday, so talking about August 10th's Athletic Football Show, and this is podcast form, not article form, we kept our beat writer notebooks rolling with check-ins from, you have Akron Jackson from the Browns, you have Joseph Person from the Panthers, and Nikki Javala from the Commanders. And then they had like an entire podcast talking about a bunch of different stuff. But the most important part was when Nikki Javala was on the podcast, her part of it, she mentioned that the Commanders view Bill as the steal of the draft. Again, this is before August 11th, before he went out there and had the performances that he had against, especially like the Bengals, where he scored the touchdown and everything like that. This is before then. This is even before the Patriots preseason game, when 22 of his 24 rushing yards were after contact. This is all before Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt ever stepped foot in a preseason NFL game. The Commanders already felt that way about him. And I feel like that's important context here, because it's easy, especially now with more of the fan base starting to jump on the Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt train, you know, especially after he's had the preseason games, he's shown you the explosion and stuff like that. But before then, to feel like that he was the steal of the draft, which I'm one of those people. I told y'all immediately after we drafted him in the 7th round, you can go back and check my analysis of when we drafted him way back in late April or early May when I finally did the breakdown. Either way, the exact video when I'm breaking down why the Commanders should be so excited about drafting him, I already claimed that he's going to be the steal of the 2025 NFL Draft. I'm just happy to see that the Commanders feel the same way about him. There's no reason that he made it to the 7th round outside of very weird circumstances where he only played in one game, and then it's just so happened that he transferred from one team to the other. His second team, he played against his previous team in that week 1 game, went off against them, and then his previous team basically snitched on him. Was like, wait a minute, why you out here going all crazy against us and stuff like that? Aren't you not supposed to be playing right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know it was them. It had to be. It couldn't have been anybody else. And so now he has to miss out the rest of the entire season. And shouts out to him because he participated in every single practice. Is basically like a practice squad like player. No scholarship, no nothing, all of that type of stuff just off the table. And he still pulled up and showed up to every practice as a practice squad guy, knowing that he has no chance of playing in the game that upcoming Saturday. The entire season. So this guy worked for everything, man. He got done wrong, and he, instead of like being down about it and choosing to, you know, be the victim and play it out as like he's the victim, he's like, no, I'm gonna do the best with what I can, with what I have, while I can. And he fought his way onto a 7th round draft pick, even though talent wise he was a 2nd, 3rd round pick at worst. I think arguably just pure natural God-given ability, like if he had one more year eligibility, I feel like he could have potentially risen up to being like a late 1st round pick. I think he has that much talent, man. And again, it's not even just the Commanders too. Like the Commanders feel like he's potentially the steal of the draft, but you had guys like NFL Draft Files. They were the ones that pointed out to me that out of Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's 24 rushing yards in the week 1 of the preseason against the New England Patriots, 22 of them came after contact. And he even said, get this man some blocking, and he'll be your fantasy draft gem. This is coming from NFL Draft Files. Not a Commanders fan, not a Commanders reporter, nothing. No Commanders attachment at all. This is purely just unbiased, neutral opinion right here. And that's how high people are on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. But why did Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt have so much hype to where even before a preseason game, the Commanders felt like they had the steal of the draft and they were jumping for joy when they got up in the 7th round? Well, first of all, I've already given y'all these stats several times before, but just in case if you forgot, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had the highest max deceleration ever on offense since the Shrine Bowl partnered with Zebra Sports, and it's a negative 7.29 yards per second squared. That's insane. Let's look at it like this. Zebra Sports has tracked max acceleration and deceleration in the Shrine Bowl since 2023, but in the Senior Bowl since 2018. Among all running backs since 2018, that's including this draft class with Aston Genty, Amarian Hampton, Travion Henderson, Quinton Junkins, all of those guys. We're going all the way back to 2018. Anybody that's participated in the Senior Bowl or the Shrine Bowl altogether, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is 6th all-time in max acceleration, and he's 1st all-time in max deceleration out of all running backs that participated, that were even able to be tracked by this Zebra Sports data. And then even okay, so if you want to separate them just from Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl guys, if you want to throw, you know, guys like Aston Genty back into the pile, if you want to throw guys like Amarian Hampton and Travion Henderson back into the pile, when we're talking about a minimum of 200 attempts from this draft class alone, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had the 3rd highest avoided tackle rate in this entire draft class. That, and again, we're not even just specifically talking about Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl, the entire draft class, that's including all of the top running backs that were drafted before him, 1st round, all of that type of stuff. Also, when facing stacked boxes, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had the highest rushing success rate out of this entire running back draft class at a 59%. And I really want to emphasize the fact that that means when the defense sends more guys than the offense can block, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt was the best out of this entire draft class throughout his college career at somehow achieving a successful run play. You saw flashes of that against the Patriots when, again, 22 of his 24 yards that he ran for were after contact. That's why it's like when he gets behind at least a decent offensive line, he's going to be insane. Again, including Aston Genty, Amarian Hampton, Travion Henderson, all of those running backs, when it comes to rushing against a stacked box, when the defense puts like around 8 people in the box specifically to stop the run, that is their primary goal. That is their priority. Stop the run. Nobody was better in this entire draft class at somehow at least getting to the line of scrimmage or even gaining a positive yard out of the situation than Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He also had an avoided tackle rate of 42%. That is absolutely insane. It's nearly a coin flip of when a defender is coming at him, whether they'll get him to the ground or not. That is scary stuff. And mind you, This guy, after all of that I just read to you from what he did in college, in the advanced stats showing that he's arguably the best, the most talented, the most naturally gifted running back in this entire running back draft class. No, he did not go in the first round, nor did he go in the second, third, fourth, fifth, or even the sixth round. He went in the seventh and deep into the seventh round as the 245th overall draft pick. It is scary. And shouts out to Josh Taylor because he brought up a great point. The top running backs to ever wear number 22, because again, mind you, he switched from number 32 to number 22 now, just a few days ago. Emmitt Smith, Derrick Henry, and the Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, aka Bill, is going to potentially be next. Now, Emmitt Smith, Derrick Henry, those are big shoes to fill, but I think Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, again, has all of the talent in the world. I'm not worried about the talent. I'm worried about the consistency. Of course, anytime you have a special talent on your team, you're worried about long-term health. You know, there's been a lot of really talented guys that just haven't lasted long due to health concerns, and that's in every sport. You know what I'm saying? So it's health, is it consistency? But I'm not worried about the determination. Again, the work ethic is ridiculous. From the whole practice squad thing I told you, where he was practicing every day as a practice squad guy, knowing that every Saturday he had no chance of playing. He still kept coming to practice and practicing hard and stuff like that. I'm not worried about the work ethic from the reasons I've already given you. As far as like what he was born with, just natural God-given ability, I'm not worried about that at all. Of course, there's other factors that's included in this, but work ethic and talent, he has all of that in spades. I'm super excited about the future of this guy, especially with the fact that no matter how talented he is, defenses can't focus on him because you have another this insane combination of talent and work ethic in Jayden Daniels. Who do you focus on? If Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt ends up being who I think he can be, which is one of those top running backs in the NFL, you know, maybe not necessarily to the level of like a Jahmyr Gibbs or Saquon Barkley or Bijan Robinson, because, I mean, those are just the best of the best. But then at the same time, I was feeling the same way with Jayden Daniels last year. Like, all of the talent and work ethic is there. The way I'm talking about Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt is crazy because it's literally the same things I was saying about Jayden Daniels last year. The talent and the work ethic is all there. But it's hard to compare him to guys like Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson just yet, because you got to see it to believe it first. Same thing with Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, and you saw what Jayden Daniels just did. You saw what he did last year, the best rookie season of all time, which includes better than all of those elite quarterbacks that we were afraid of comparing them to before the season started. It's the same feeling I have with Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, and apparently the Commanders agree, feeling like he is the steal of the entire 2025 NFL Draft. Now, before we move on to the second half of this video, breaking down how this Washington Commanders offense is evolving and has become somehow, even though they were top 5 last year, they're working towards becoming the #1 offense this year. Before we get into that, again, football is back, man. I know y'all saw that Cowboys-Eagles game last night, man, and man, my boy Jalen caught him. That's my Georgia dog right there, but he got to get it together. Even though Dak Prescott did bait him a little bit, if you really go look at the clip. But either way, that was a great game. And now with Sleeper, you have a chance to 100 times your cash on daily fantasy football, man. Washington football has never been more exciting than it is now, with elite offensive players like your top 5 quarterback in Jayden Daniels. Paid and happy Terry McLaurin. I'm going to keep emphasizing that. He's paid and happy. Imagine how he's going to ball out this year. And then you also have Deebo Samuel, who's arguably the most motivated player on the entire team. That's to prove to everybody out there that not only is he not just still a great player, but he's not fat. You know, there's fat allegations attached to this man's name. As a wide receiver, not a tight end, not an offensive lineman. It's crazy. But we have so many other great Commanders players as well. Pick on stats from these stars like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more for up to 100 times payout on Sleeper. And if you're right on your picks, you can win big money, and you can use promo code SCORE, that's SCORE, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. You can even just click the link at the top of the description of this video and every video that I'm doing all season. And just in case if y'all don't know about combo play, you can miss picks on your Sleeper entry and still cash in as long as you do a combo play. And it's not even just the Commanders in the NFL. Y'all can also dive deep into your bag and play some fantasy for NBA, MLB, NHL, college football, college basketball, and even the WNBA on Sleeper. Entries can be made in 30 seconds or less. They have safe and fast withdrawal processes and everything like that. And of course, Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. And there's a $1 minimum entry for users, of course, for everything. And also, as you can see on the screen, like I always love to do, man, I just love to go to the popular section. I just pull up my phone, go to NFL popular duos. And one of the ones I was looking at now was, I mean, come on, man. Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown. As long as either of those guys get any sort of a touchdown, as long as it's a receiving or a rushing, as long as Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey each get at least one touchdown, you're good to go there. And so I'm looking at that like, come on, man. And so you could end up turning 10 into 21.4 there. Or if you wanted to put 100, you could turn that into 214, man. Come on now. I'm looking at Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey. As long as Christian McCaffrey's healthy, I don't see how neither of those guys don't get touchdowns in their upcoming game. Especially, the Baltimore Ravens are going to need the Derrick Henry to be able to beat the Buffalo Bills. And the Seattle Seahawks defense I feel like they're very underrated. I think they're going to be a top 3 at worst, top 5 defense in the NFL. But I still think Christian McCaffrey, when healthy, can expose any defense and at least get some sort of a touchdown, whether it's receiving or on the ground. As long as either of them get a touchdown, we're good to go. Now we got to talk about how this Commanders offense is evolving. But we also can't forget that the offense was already spectacular last season. I mean, let's take a look at some of the rankings that we finished with last year. And this is from an offense that started off very efficient. But when we're talking about like overall yards and points and stuff like that, we weren't going like super crazy in the beginning. And then we also had this middle roadblock where Jaden Daniels has a rib break, some type of rib injury to where it's not bruised. He confirmed later on earlier this offseason, well after the 2024 season ended, that his ribs were actually broken. We hit like a middle where like our offense stalled, and some people were starting to think, well, maybe this Jaden Daniels hype wasn't worth it. But all in all, all along, it ended up just being because of his broken ribs. He wasn't who he could normally be. Defenses tried to take advantage of that. And then once Jaden Daniels got back healthy, we were going right back to exposing every defense, no matter who they were. And it was beautiful. And so even with that roller coaster ride, the Commanders finished 6th in points per game out of the entire NFL at 28.8, which is again why I said that they could potentially end up scoring 30 points or more per game this season. If they scored 28.8 last year with what they had with no Deebo Samuel, no Laramie Tunsil, no Jalen Lane, like come on, bro. And then we're gonna dive into all of that soon. Yards per game, they were 5th with 373.3, insane. Points per play, they were 7th. Yards per play, they were 10th. But then third down conversion percentage, they were 6th. Of course, fourth down conversion percentage, they were number 1. It was one of the most efficient fourth down conversion offenses in NFL history. So, of course, they were number 1 in 2024 if they were competing with some of the best ones in NFL history at a 78.95% conversion rate on fourth down. That is absolutely insane. Even red zone scoring percentage, we were 6th there. 63.41%. Insane. In touchdowns per game, we were 7th with 3.3. Again, mind you, with the roller coaster ride that we had, with everything being new, with some teams catching us off guard, like the Buccaneers week 1, you saw the difference in how we played against them in the playoffs way later down the line. They caught us when we still thought we were still trying Mike Sanders still at slot corner early in that season. And ultimately, he's going to be a slot corner for his career, and especially this year as well. But we didn't realize that Benjamin St-Juste, Michael Davis, and Emmanuel Forbes were that horrible. Like, we're still talking about the early stages of the season to where we still had Emmanuel Forbes, Michael Davis, and St-Juste out there trying to, play corner for us, which they did all season. But it got to a point, like, by week 3 against the Bengals, Joey Jr. was like, all right, man, we drafted this guy to be a slot corner. But right now, he's easily the best corner we have on this entire team. So we have to play him at outside at this point. So they moved Mike Sanders still to outside corner week 3. And then we never looked back. And now he's finally moving back to slot corner. And even though that's a defensive thing, I'm just trying to put it in the perspective of like the roller coaster ride and how raw we were as a team, man. Jaden Daniels was still learning Cliff Kingsbury's offense early on in the season. Like, we had so much rawness. Like, Jaden Daniels didn't have that much chemistry with Zach Ertz yet. Even that much chemistry with Terry McLaurin just yet. Remember, early on in the season, we were questioning whether Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels could get their chemistry together. We were starting to question whether Terry McLaurin would even reach 1,000 yards in a season. By the end of the season, he ended up being second team All-Pro. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had so many questions. We were questioning Frankie Louisville and Bobby Wagner week 1 against the Buccaneers because they couldn't even tackle in that week 1 game. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were so raw to start the season, and we still somehow finished offensively at worst top 10 in every offensive category that matters. You know what I'm saying? And so if this season, going into our second year, even if nothing changed, even if we kept the exact same roster as last year, offensively especially, even if Brian Robinson was still your starting running back, even if we didn't have Deebo Samuel, no Josh Connolly, no Laramie Tunsil, I would just assume that our offense was still improved just off of the fact that now you're getting end of season Commanders at the beginning of the season this year around. You know what I'm saying? So even just ignoring all of the changes and additions that we made this offseason, or even just improvements, we would naturally just be a better offense starting off in this 2025 season compared to last season, just because we have at least some chemistry and some sort of like understanding of the Cliff Kingsbury offense moving forward. And then on top of all of that, somehow, I mean, remember, first 4 games, we had 19 incompletions, but 23 scoring drives. Like, that was historical. We went so long without ever punting. It was ridiculous. But what if I told you that that offense right there is going to be even better than it was last year? And not even just because there will be natural growth and improvement with Jaden going into his second season, and this will be this team's second year under the same offensive coordinator. I want to emphasize that Cliff Kingsbury is your offensive coordinator for 2 years in a row, which allows us, instead of spending time learning the offense like we did last offseason, we'll spend more time adding more layers to it and in evolving the offense, taking the offense to another level. And even beyond that, just the surface advantages of adding Deebo Samuel and Laramie Tunsil via trade, Josh Connolly, Jalen Lane, and JCM via the draft. And then you even have Terry McLaurin practicing his high step. See, this is what I'm talking about, where even ignoring the guys that we added this offseason, even ignoring any additions that we made via free agency in the draft, guys like Terry McLaurin is working on something specifically that could have helped us a lot last year. I showed y'all the clips from a practice a few days ago that he's working on his high step now. I can't tell you, I can't remember every time because it feels sort of like PTSD at this point, and I prefer to block this out of my memory. But Terry McLaurin was stopped before reaching so many touchdowns because he didn't know how to high step. He was shoestring tackled so many times. The most vivid one that I can never get out of my brain, no matter how hard I try, was that Browns game one where Jaden Daniels escaped pressure for like 10 seconds or 5 to 10 seconds, something ridiculous, where he's dipping and dodging. He doesn't even get a chance to, plant his feet and get his mechanics down pat. He just has to throw it completely off of his back foot while running, throws it deep to Terry McLaurin, he catches it, and then he gets shoestring tackled at like the 2-3 yard line. And then like a play or two later, Jay Daniels ends up throwing an interception. And I mean, of course, we can't place all of the blame on Terry McLaurin because Jaden Daniels is the one that threw the interception. But if Terry McLaurin knew how to high step on that play, we score a touchdown. But instead, we walk away with no points, not even 3, no points at all. And it's just something specific as Terry McLaurin learning how to high step. And that happened at least 4 times last season. Those were 4 touchdowns that we left on the field just because of that. And so I'm so happy to see that Terry McLaurin was working on that this offseason. But it's not only just him. Back on August 6th, John Kahn pointed out the fact that a coach said that the Commanders tight end Zach Ertz's footwork is much better than last year's, and that's going to improve his yards after catch opportunities. Now, it is interesting that with Zach Ertz being, how old is Zach Ertz? 34 years old? You typically don't improve at a very noticeable rate in any particular way, especially when it comes to like something like footwork or something like that. I could understand, maybe route running nuance and stuff like that. And I can also even say that, improved footwork can make it to where he can get more open. I can see that. But leading to more yards after catch opportunities is very interesting. Like, that's a weird one there. But if that is true, let's just say hypothetically that's true. I'm not just going to assume that it's true because, again, that's a lot to just believe in for face value. You know what I'm saying? I'm definitely taking that with a grain of salt. I'm excited. I'm optimistic, but I'm not about to just assume that no Yak Zach is going to turn into this yards after catch demon just because he improved his footwork. I'm rooting for it again. I'm hoping for it, but that's just like, come on, man. Like, is that realistic? But just say if it is, that's going to be crazy because Zach Ertz was already a second leading receiver last year with Terry McLaurin leading the team with 1,096 yards. Zach Ertz was second with 654. That's just how ugly our wide receiver situation was, to where Olamide Zaccheaus was third, Noah Brown was hurt and missed 6 games and was fourth, and then Austin Eckler, a running back, was fifth. Your wide receiver situation was awful last year. absolutely awful. But somehow Jaden Daniels in one of those games last year threw two touchdowns each to Olamide Zaccheaus and Jamison Crowder in one game. That guy can do anything with anybody. And the fact that now that we've surrounded him with better talent is just going to make him even more deadly. Which also goes to my next point too, because we're not even just improving by players improving, schematically we're improving as well. Because it was reported by JP Finley back on August 7th that last season the Commanders ran 12 to 13 personnel sets with one tight end next to each tackle very often. Basically because Brandon Coleman at left tackle and Andrew Wiley at right tackle, they weren't able to just be on an island and just block whatever edge rusher they had to block that week. You know what I'm saying? They needed some type of help. They needed tight ends out there to help pass protect for them. And now since adding Laramie Tunsil, they were able to run sets in practice back on August 7th. And I'm pretty sure they've done this all throughout training camp with just Tunsil on the left. And then they had two tight ends on the right side with Bates, Ertz, and Sennett. So now Cliff Kingsbury has the flexibility to get more creative, to get more versatile, to get more complicated on offense, because you could literally just leave Laramie Tunsil on the island on the left side, and we could not do that last year. That's why you traded for an elite left tackle like a Laramie Tunsil. And that's why you drafted a potentially elite right tackle in Josh Connolly. I love the fact that Josh Connolly has the high ceiling that he has, and you got him in the first round. And like I've already said, and a lot of scouts have said this as well, this is not just me making this up. Scouts have literally said that if Josh Connolly went back into the draft another year with Oregon, he would have came out and been a top 5 pick. So that's his level of talent. They just feel like he left a year early. The Commanders are like, hey, we're still a top 5 talent a year early, and then he'll turn into that throughout this season. He'll just figure it out while being thrown out there to the Wolves in real game action in the NFL level, instead of allowing them to, slowly gain that development at the college ranks. We'll just do it on the run while we're going. But it completely changes the entire offense and busts through the door of limitations that Cliff Kingsbury had on this scheme around last year, man. I mean, going from 0 tackles last year that could be left on islands with you needed some sort of chipping or blocking help for both of them, to now 0 of them. That's going to make this offense so unfair. I don't think people truly understand how slow our plays were developing last year, because the receivers, tight ends, and even running backs at time had to help either one of those tackles and take time out of running their routes to help chip an edge rusher, or even worse, actually stay there and straight up help block the edge rusher. So now with Laramie Tunsil especially, receivers and tight ends and even running backs will be able to get at least an extra 2 seconds head start to running their routes or doing whatever their primary responsibilities are. That's monumental. I don't think y'all understand how important that is. Our offense is going to be way faster this year just from that alone. Instead of Luke McCaffrey dedicating 2 to 4 seconds of his precious route running time to help Brandon Coleman or Andrew Wiley on either side of the offensive line with some type of blocking to help make sure this edge rusher doesn't beat them immediately, now he can use that 2 seconds to go further into his route development. I mean, he could just immediately run his route as soon as the ball is snapped. He's going to be like, wow, I don't even know what this feels like. So even little changes like that will make Luke McCaffrey better and more productive. And guys should be open way sooner for Jaden Daniels, because they're not back there blocking the first half of the play. Now they're immediately running routes as a wide receiver, which is what you would hope and think that wide receivers do, but they didn't do as much as you think last year. And even just beyond that, 1 point from JP Finley. Also think about how the fact that Tunsil and Connolly have elite footwork. So they will be able to get to the second and third levels to block linebackers and defensive backs way easier and smoother than Coleman or Wiley were able to do last year. And I love Brandon Coleman. And I'm one of the people that's defending Wiley from the rest of the fan base. Like, wait, he's not that bad, I promise you. But even Brandon Coleman, I think he has all pro potential at guard. I think he was a good tackle. I think he can be an elite guard. But at the same time, Connolly and Laramie Tunsil are just on a different level, specifically when we're talking mobility, man. I mean, there were plays last year that were 3 to 8 yard runs that will now become 10 to 20 plus yard runs this year, just because you have Laramie Tunsil and Josh Connolly out in front blocking those DBs and linebackers. And y'all know how much Cliff Kingsbury loves screens. Now you'll have an elite mobility tackle on both sides out there paving the way, blocking and taking like 1 to 3 guys completely out of the play on any given screen. And if you're wondering why our screens rarely resulted in huge chunk gains last year, like 20 plus yards and stuff like that, that's why. Now you're going to potentially see a lot of that this year. And of course, that's going to make offense better and easier for Jaden Daniels. Because say, for example, the Giants week 1 matchup, they have an elite pass rushing group, just considering the talent that they have on their defensive line with Abdul Carter they just drafted, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and even Dexter Lawrence in the middle. But you know, one way to really completely suppress a pass rush is if you just keep hitting them with screens, especially if the screens are consistent. Now they have to worry about, oh, wait, man, I got to worry about this screen, so I can't immediately go after the quarterback. And then on plays that they think we're throwing a screen and we're not, now their pass rush is stifled just a little bit. You know, it's slowed down just a little bit, just enough for Jaden Daniels to be able to sit in the pocket and dissect them through the air like he normally wants to. So screens are very important to this offense. It's not just because they have to coddle Jaden Daniels, but sometimes maybe there's just an elite pass rushing group that we're going against. Even though I feel like our offensive line on paper will end up being one of the best by the end of the year. Maybe we'll have some sort of chemistry issues early on, but that's what the screen game is here for, to mitigate some of those issues, to kind of, you know, hold back some of the eventual faults that this offensive line may have early on in the season, just because they haven't had a lot of experience playing alongside each other, whether it be the injuries and stuff like that. And we still don't even have Samuel Cosmi. He won't be back till week 5 against the Chargers at the earliest. So that's going to be a whole nother chemistry issue there as well, because he's never practiced alongside Josh Connolly ever before in their lives. So there's going to be some expected offensive line issues, maybe some inconsistencies here and there just from chemistry and communication and stuff like that. The screen game helps mitigate some of those problems. Or even just think about how Terry on a reverse, or Connolly or Tunsil out in front of him, and they paved the way for a huge game. The possibilities are endless with this group, honestly. Even just think about how much cleaner Jaden Daniels will be kept while scrambling or running for yards when he decides to run with the ball. And with those 2 tackles with insane mobility compared to last year's 2 tackles, man, it's going to be just from that alone. And don't even get me started on a third point about how Deebo Samuel will change this entire offense by himself. Not only just from the fact that he brings a whole nother level of what Diami was doing for us and as in the gadget receiver department, but also even without the gadget stuff, Deebo Samuel is the best wide receiver Terry has ever played along with in his career, ever. So now defenses will actually be forced to focus on and game plan for somebody else outside of Terry McLaurin for once in his career. That alone is insane, let alone the fact that Deebo Samuel has exceeded all expectations that I had for him ever since we traded for him a few months ago. The receiver that I thought we'd get is nowhere near the receiver that we actually ended up getting. From what I'm seeing from a technical refinement standpoint, his route running is way improved compared to what I ever saw from him with the 49ers. Even his 2021 NFL season, where he went absolutely insane, he was more of a weapon than like an actual pure wide receiver, a nuanced wide receiver. I'm seeing far more nuance from him this offseason. I don't know what happened this offseason. Maybe it was the fact that he was motivated with the fact that he was traded, people calling him fat, but I'm seeing a release package from him. Never saw that with the 49ers. I'm seeing improved route running. I'm seeing ball tracking ability down the field, like an actual deep threat. You know what I'm saying? Deebo Samuel as a threat deep down the field through the air. I don't remember really seeing that often with the 49ers. I'm seeing that here. Now, granted, Jaden Daniels being your quarterback compared to Brock Purdy or Jimmy Garoppolo, I can see how, you know what I'm saying, you can end up being a better deep threat just from that alone. But I'm also feeling like he's worked hard to improve his ball tracking ability. I mean, I've seen plenty of times he's dropped wide open slants for the 49ers. His hands look way better for us as well. So not only is Terry McLaurin playing with the best wide receiver he's ever played next to in his entire NFL career, even that receiver is potentially going to be the best version of himself for this Commanders this season than he's ever been as well. And we're talking about Terry McLaurin playing with the best receiver he's ever played along with. That's the raw version of Deebo Samuel. This refined version, even scarier. And like I briefly mentioned earlier, the versatility and speed of Jalen Lane and the explosion, agility, and speed of Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt. Come on, man. I'm not expecting them to, be refined enough or even consistent enough threats as early as week 1 to where defenses literally have to game plan against them. But at some point this season, I promise you, they will make our offense way better and at the very least way faster, and give defensive coordinators headaches and having to stay up all night having to worry about them as well. And every point I've made so far are things that I kind of expect to happen at some point this season. Everything I've said, I'm like very confident will happen. It's not a maybe, it's more of like a when, not if. But how about some beneficial ifs? Like let's dive into some scenarios where I'm not as confident in, but we just can't ignore them and act like it's not possible at all. Like what if Ben Sinnott finally develops into a consistent passing game threat for this offense and can now turn 13 personnel with 1 running back and 3 tight ends into like an actual passing game threat, where defenses have to change their personnel to stop the run because you're running 3 tight ends, so it looks like you're about to run. They can't just ignore an offense having 3 tight ends on the field and act like they're not about to run the ball, but then our tight ends can go out there and still throw the ball because at least 2 of your tight ends, and Zach Ertz and Ben Sinnott, are actual real passing receiving threats. I mean, defenses will be at their mercy of us if we're in heavy set personnel groupings like that. And when they sell out to stop the run, Ben Sinnott, Zach Ertz, Terry, and Debo could be out there killing defenses in the passing game like nobody's business. There's so many ways that we could take this. That's just one hypothetical if. I'm curious from y'all, any points that I didn't bring up as far as the ones I'm confident in, or any of the points that maybe you could bring up that I was not confident in. Let me know what point I didn't bring up that you feel like will be an additional wrinkle to this offense that's going to make us even better going into 2025 compared to what we were in 2024. Again, I had 3 confident ones, 3 or 4 confident ones. And then I also just ended with that one hypothetical if Ben Sinnott becomes a passing game threat. Let me know which ones you're confident in, and let me know which ones are big ifs for you that could potentially take our offense to another level. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Hey, man, shout out to my watch all the way through the video to the end game, man. Shouts out to all of y'all, man. I may have to put an acronym together for that. I may even have to make like a shirt or a logo or something, man. Really appreciate y'all to make it all the way to the end. If you're still watching me and listening to me right now, I appreciate you and salute you personally, dog, man. Appreciate that. Make sure you leave a like on the way out, and of course let me know in the comment section how you feel about the whole Commanders feel like they're the still of the draft and Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt thing, and also how do you feel about this offense potentially somehow, even though they were top 5 last year, do you agree that this offense has the potential to be even better than that going into this year? And then of course bring up all of the points why. If there are any points that you could think of that I didn't bring up, whether realistic like my main 3 or 4 that I was confident in, or fairly unrealistic hypothetical big ifs like Ben Sinnott improving in the passing game where I've seen no evidence of it but I see the talent, let me know if you have any points of either way, some that you're confident in or some of them that you're just kind of throwing out there that hey, maybe it could happen. Let me know in the comment section. I'm gonna try my best to reply to as many as possible. Leave a like on the way out. Appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later, probably with another video this evening. I'm out.